In this lesson, I'm going to teach you a basic sleeve pattern that can be used as the foundation or sloper for any style of sleeve you would ever wish to design. All of the sleeves in the half-scale garments behind me were made using this method. The blouse sleeve gathered into a button band, the raglan sleeve of the coat, the three-quarter sleeve with a turned-up cuff and slit, the dress with a short sleeve and turned-up cuff and its matching jacket, the blue coat with a two-piece sleeve and the velvet applique, and the brown jacket with a two-piece sleeve. After showing you how to draft this, I will also show you how the pattern compares to a sloper. You'll see how this should fit into a garment, and at the very end, you'll see both sleeves applied to my personal torso sloper, so you'll understand how they should look when finished. Let's begin. A tape measure. This is a 6 by 24 inch clear ruler, a variform curve, see-through rulers of various sizes, a French curve. When not filming, I use a narrow, hard pencil and an eraser. For film, I'll use markers. And of course, paper scissors. You'll need your sloper and some paper. Enough elastic to go around your bicep. Take a piece of elastic and make a band that fits your bicep and slide it up your arm. The top of the elastic band will be at the same level of the muslin fitting shell and parallel to the floor. Using sticky tape to hold it, place the tape measure at the shoulder edge. For cap height, measure down to the top of the elastic. Then measure from the shoulder to the elbow and from the shoulder to the wrist, with the elbow slightly bent. Note the measurements. Take your bicep measurement while making a muscle. Measure your fist. This will be used as hand entry measurement. If you haven't already, you need to measure the armholes of the sloper, both front and back, and make note of those measurements. Draw a line about 3/4 of an inch from the top of your paper. This will be the shoulder line. Using the measurement from the shoulder to the bicep, draw a line. Using the measurement from the shoulder to the elbow, draw a line. And from the shoulder to the wrist. At the middle of the shoulder line, make a small red mark. Using the front armhole measurement, place your ruler at the red mark on the shoulder line. Find where that measurement falls on the bicep line and draw a straight line. You will repeat this process on the other side with the back armhole measurement. To make the overarm and underarm curves, we dissect the line, find the midpoint of it, move down 1 inch, and make a small dot. That will become a notch when we add seam allowance. That also helps us to determine the overarm and underarm curves. We'll do the same thing for the back. Find the midpoint, then come down 1 inch, make a red mark, and come down another 1/2 inch and make a second mark. 2 marks indicates the back of the sleeve. Using your variform curve or French curve, start at the top dot on the shoulder line and come to the red mark on the straight line. Flip the curve and go from the red dot to the bicep line, creating the underarm curve. Repeat the same process on the back, intersecting the lower red dot on the straight line. Now I'm showing you how to do the same process with 2 rulers. You'll notice that the front underarm curve is a little deeper than the back. That is the way our arms are. When we started with the straight lines and made curved lines, the measurements are now longer, which will not only give the shaping of the sleeve, but ease in the cap. Where the curved lines meet the bicep, place a small dash. This can be moved later. By measuring the new curved line and comparing it to the straight line that we started with, we will find the difference, and that difference will tell us the amount of ease that was added. I like to have between 3/8 and 5/8 ease in a simple sleeve with lightweight fabric, so this is perfect. This has 1/2 of an inch ease on the front. The back is a fraction shy, so that little dash on the bicep line, I'm going to move over 1/8 of an inch. That will give me a 1/2 inch ease. Find the midpoint of the bicep. We'll use that as our length grain line and the middle of the sleeve at the wrist level. I'm also comparing that measurement to my own bicep width. That will tell me how much ease I have in my personal sleeve sloper. Draw a red line down the middle of the sleeve. That started at the dot in the middle of the bicep line and perpendicular to the bicep line. The arrows indicate length grain. The cross grain, of course, are the lines perpendicular to the length grain line. Now I'm splitting the wrist measurement, or my fist measurement, equidistance from the red line and connecting the bicep line to the wrist line. You will do this on both sides of the sleeve. Now I'm going to start adding the seam allowance and hem allowance. Starting with the hem, I've added 1.5 inches. You can add whatever you wish. Adding the seam allowance, I'm laying the 1/2 inch mark along the underarm seam, and that 1/2 square is at the underarm seam where the underarm seam intersects the cap. This gives me a perfect right angle, which makes for a wonderful pattern. Putting little dots or dashes at the 1/2 inch mark around the cap, and then connecting them with the French curve or variform curve. Now I'm going to show you what is called cording. Fold your hem up and cut along the seam allowance line. Now when you unfold the hem, you'll see that it has the correct shape for sewing. Now to add notches. When a notch is on a straight line, you can simply lay the ruler across the straight line. I would not do notches by hand without using a tool, simply because they won't be as accurate. These notches are about 1/4 of an inch long, and the cross mark is where you stop the snip if you're actually cutting into the notch. Shoulder notch at the top of the cap. Run a straight line of the ruler through the notch, balancing the 1/2 inch mark of the ruler on the curve. This notch is a little trickier. I'm pointing different directions because it could be drawn so many different ways, but I want to balance the ruler right on the seam line. Not balanced, not balanced, balanced. Perfect. And if you use this method on its corresponding piece, the body of the garment, the notches will line up. Repeating the same process on the back, there are 2 notches 1/2 of an inch apart from each other. Now what I want to do is compare the underarm curves to the sloper. If you're using a pattern that's not a sloper, do the same thing. Mine are close enough. If they were terribly different, I would change them. And it's easier to do that before you add seam allowance. Now what I want to do is transfer the notches from the sleeve pattern to the sloper pattern. I'm measuring from the bicep line up to the notch, ignoring all seam allowance, and whatever that measurement is, I find that on the pattern of the sloper and create a notch there. This is called transferring notches. Repeating on the back. It's always a good idea to test your sleeve. Block your fabric and transfer all grain lines. Sew it together and baste it into your torso sloper. My shoulder fits perfectly. There's plenty of ease, the elbow is good, and the wrist is good. The back of the cap has a little excess, which is good for forward arm movements. Once you know you're happy with the fit of the sleeve, you'll want to make a permanent sloper out of oak tag or poster board so that you have a durable sloper to work with for many years. You'll transfer all of the markings except the seam allowance and hem allowance, using a tracing wheel and your rulers to perforate through the pattern and then filling in the markings. The notches will be tiny dots along the edge of the sloper.